3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu.
And I am Alfred Ocansey.
The news is also live on Kesmi 107.1 FM and across the world at 3news.com. On Facebook, we're streaming live on 3FM 927. Coming up in the next 1.5 hours, High Court finds 2 Kaswa teenage killers guilty of gruesome murder of 10-year-old boy. One of them has been sentenced to life imprisonment. We have all the details for you.
And national executives of the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, directs for the suspension of their strike pending approval by their members. We have details of this latest coming through from UTAG later on here on Hot Edition.
Also coming up on the program, communities in Ada in Greater Accra region still battling cholera outbreak. 43 confirmed cases with 2 deaths. We'll hear from the Ghana Health Service.
And later on, we'll take you to the United States, where early voting has commenced in battleground states ahead of the November polls. Remain your election command center. We have updates on that, plus the latest in business, sports as well. For the next 1 hour, 30 minutes. We're live as well on W93.5 in Wa and beyond, and also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. And on this, the Electoral Commission has also ruled out new CI, that's a constitutional instrument, before the 2024 elections. Stay with us here on your Election Command Center. Grace Hammoah Agyemang is here with a summary of the news.
Yes, Alfred, let's get into it. A 7-member jury has unanimously found the 2 teenagers charged for 2021 murder of a 10-year-old boy at Kaswa for money ritual guilty. The 2 teenagers, who are 18 and 15 years respectively, have been found guilty on 2 counts of conspiracy to commit murder and the substantive charge of murder. Consequently, the High Court, presided over by Justice Lydia Osemafo, has sentenced the 18-year-old Nicholas Kinney to life in prison. Away from that, the Senior Staff Association of the Volta River Authority say they are not enthused about a request from the Energy Ministry to halt the consideration of bills that would lead to the merger of the VRA, WIPA Authority, as well as ECG and NEDCO. The request was made in a statement signed by the Minister of State at the Energy Ministry, Herbert Kwapa, urging Parliament to halt further discussions on the bill. Ghana has so far confirmed 43 cholera cases with 2 deaths recorded. 12 persons are on admission and close to 200 suspected cases, all within the Ada East and West districts of the Greater Accra region. According to health officials, some of the cases were transported from neighboring countries who are equally reporting cases of cholera. The Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Franklin Yesiadu, says the country's response to the outbreak is in 3 folds, with more focus on identifying cases early and tracing their contact. And the National Executive Committee of the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, has directed a suspension of the ongoing strike, which has left academic activities grounded across public universities. The Galamsey-induced industrial action was part of the group's request to the government to ban all forms of illegal mining and revoke LI 2462, which allows mining in forest reserves. But after considerations, UTAG National Executive Committee is proposing an end to the strike effective Tuesday, October 29, 2024, subject to the affirmation or otherwise of members. That's it for the news summaries.
Thank you very much, Grace Hammoah Agyemang, and let's bring you the details of our stories now. And the High Court has found 2 teenagers guilty of the gruesome murder of a 10-year-old boy in Kaswa. The court delivered its verdict nearly 3 years after the brutal killing of Ishmael Abdallah, a crime that shocked Ghanaians for its chilling nature and the involvement of 2 minors. Nicholas Kinney, who was 18 years old at the time of the crime, has been sentenced to life in prison for his role in the killing. The first accused, who was only 15 years old when the crime took place, will be sentenced by juvenile court, since the High Court does not have jurisdiction to sentence minors. A 7-member jury unanimously found the 2 teenagers guilty. Lord Edwasari was in court for us. He joins us now in the studio. Lord, I know it's been 3 years since this dastardly act, as it were, but first, just take us through to the beginning of the case and why it lasted 3 years.
Right, Beatrice. So, this case, as we know it, started in March. Actually, occurred March 2021, right? So, three friends, Nicholas Kinney, the 15-year-old, he's a minor, so we can't really put his identity out there, and then the victim, Ishmael Abdullah Mensah. They're all friends, right? And the 15-year-old watched an advert on television, and in that advert, a fetish priest had promised money once you bring 5,000 Ghana cedis and then human blood. So after watching this, he contacted his friend, the 18-year-old at the time,
Kinney
is used to be a student of the Great Lamte Mills. He contacted him and then told him that this is what he had watched, and so what do they do? And then they got a plan that, okay, let's reach out to the fetish priest, and they reached out to this fetish priest, and then she said that they should bring 5,000 cedis and then human blood. So their plan was that they will abduct the naive friend, the 10-year-old Ishmael. Ishmael's a lover of video games. So the plan was that they will abduct him or kidnap him and then demand the money from his parents. That didn't pan out because once they planned it, when they were about to execute it, Ishmael's mother called him. And so in another instance, they called him to an uncompleted building where Kinney and then the other accused person was there. And then the 15-year-old told Kinney that he pointed him to a sack and told him that he had put a video game in there for him, so he should reach out for it. Now, when he was going for it, and then Kinney struck, from the prosecution's report, Kinney struck Ishmael at the back of his head with the wooden part of a shovel. And the victim was stunned. He turned, fell, and asked him that what had he done to him, and pleaded for him to forgive him if he had offended him. At that point, the 15-year-old picked up a cement block and used it against the head of Ishmael. So Ishmael passed out, and then they picked him up and buried him. So all this while, the sibling of the 15-year-old had heard some noise, and she was observing what was going on. So she drew the attention of the mother. At which point, they had finished everything and buried.
Which means they didn't do it too far from the home?
No, not really. So they had buried the boy, and then from the prosecution, because the prosecution ended up calling 7 witnesses. That included the family of both sides, both of the accused persons. So the sister of the 15-year-old told her side of the story that yes, she saw bits of it, and then she told the parents, who then dug out the pits and realized that there was blood. And the pathologists, when they did the postmortem, they realized that Ishmael died from head trauma, suffocation, and then head injuries. So, I mean, this whole thing lasted for about 3 years.
Why did it last that long?
So, it's for cases like this, it usually has to do with jury sitting. So this was heard by a 7-member jury. And you recall that in the past 3 years or less, we've had consistent, how should I put this, strike actions by the jury for non-payment of stuff. We had GSAG also having their strike for non-payment of their allowances. And so this has always affected it. I mean, even last week when the judgment was supposed to be pronounced, one member of the jury was absent. And then again, it had to be rescheduled because you can't make the pronouncement without even one person. They all have to be present because the judgment will have to be made by all the jury members. And so basically, one of the key reasons has to do with the evidence, the prosecution's work, and then the strike actions of the jury, and then the judicial service staff as well.
And indeed, you just talked about this being a jury trial. Just tell us about the decision and how the judge delivered it.
Okay, so today, the various lawyers for the defense and then the prosecution starting with the prosecution, once they gave the whole summing up, they made it known to the jury that these persons, they needed them to return a guilty verdict so that would serve as a deterrent, because this was a definitely these are teenagers and they had committed murder, so they should give out the full sentence so that it will serve as a deterrent. And then the defense also said that, from the narration from their clients, they didn't do it. Although, for the record, the 15-year-old did admit he pleaded guilty to one of the charges. Now, there are two charges. One was conspiracy to commit murder and then murder. Now, the 15-year-old pleaded guilty to conspiracy but pleaded not guilty to murder. And then the second accused, Nicholas, he pleaded not guilty to any of the charges. Throughout the trial, he was consistent with saying that he didn't have anything to do with it. So much so that after the sentencing, he told the judge and essentially the court that the ghost of the victim will be the best person to tell the truth, because as far as he's concerned, he's still innocent. Back to the jury. So the jury had a unanimous decision. Once the lawyers had summed up and then given their closing statements, the jury took less than 5 minutes break and they returned with their judgments. And then afterwards, the judge, Lydia Osaimafo, after hearing their decision, also read it out and sentenced them to sentence Nicholas Kinney to life in prison, and for the 15-year-old, now 18, the juvenile court. But I wanted to read something that the judge, in delivering her judgment, indicated.
Very briefly.
So she said that the parents of the present generation are asleep, while the children who should be made to be sleeping by them are widely awake. The consequence is silent pandemic, eroding our society and condemning our future generation to a life of trauma. Also, and then she quoted Hillary Clinton, where it says that parents neglect their children. When parents neglect their children, society pays the price. Then she continued to say that nothing but parental neglect has brought us this far. If we don't take care, the foundation of this nation will be destroyed.
A seeming summary of what's happening around, but briefly, can you tell us the reaction from the family of the victim?
So, they said they don't have the closure yet. They indicate the fact that, because since this case started, because of that, they've had deaths. One of the family members indicated that there's 100,000 deaths that has accrued because they tend to travel since this whole thing began. They're constantly traveling and they haven't really concluded. And so that was what happened. And after the sentence, the whole time the sentence was being read, both persons had their heads bowed down. At some point, I saw the first accused wiping a tear from his eye, and then Nicholas had his arms folded, was looking at the whole time. And once the judgment was done, he looked angry because he still maintained that he didn't have anything to do with it and said he's not guilty, and so he felt like he had been undone by this judgment, Beatrice.
Thank you very much, Lord Idrasari, for that comprehensive report from the beginning of this case till now.
Well, let's stay a bit further on this. A number of you have been following this quite closely, and Martin Pebo is private legal practitioner. He's joining us on the telephone. Has been following this as well quite closely. Counsel, appreciate your time. Good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Ocansey.
And let me first establish this, that you provided some counsel for the second accused?
Yes. So, basically his lead counsel. But I know how this is go. With time, you get busy, so you can't do it all alone.
Indeed.
So, since I work with other lawyers, eventually I had to let Lawrence Reku help me. Before Lawrence, Hamdi Mohammed was helping. It's a legal team, so I got able assistance from the rest of them.
Right on. I just needed that quick clarification, and also the declaration, so that we know how this conversation is going to go. But now the High Court has found these two teenagers guilty of this gruesome murder of the 10-year-old boy in Kaswa. This case gripped the nation since 2021. The details of it, as Lord Idrasari has given to us, is it one that really was shocking to you, or as it were, based on the case and how it played out, it is one that you were, even though as counsel, you were expecting that there was not going to be any way out?
Yeah, so Mr. Ocansey, you rightly put out the conflict I'm experiencing. So because I'm lawyer for Nicholas, when it comes to the emotive part, I can't go too far, except to say even in court, we also express our condolences to the bereaved family. And even when this matter came, before I became lawyer in the matter, I've been doing a lot of work when it comes to juveniles. So I'd expressed my opinions on it. And then about several months down the line, before I became lawyer for Nicholas. So it's something that we are all sad that we lost the young man. It's unfortunate, and we pray that the good Lord will restore the family, that the good Lord would restore the family. And so that's our prayer. For Nicholas, now the case is over. And of course, yes, there was the other angle you mentioned about the shock and everything. So it's that side that usually I can't go too much into, at least saying that we've expressed our condolences to the family. I think that is shown enough sensitivity. But beyond that, I have to be circumspect because of my obligations towards the second accused. It still says he's innocent, so I have to be mindful of that.
Well, I see, but certainly, and that's it was worth it that I established it right from the beginning. But the general aspect of how this case has played out, and especially because of how you have also been committed, and we all do know that committed and involved in juvenile cases in this country. Looking at the various aspects of this particular case, and the judge did underscore how society itself is also not doing much in ensuring that such juvenile cases, which are on the rise, could be stemmed. Is it one that you would align with or you would support, that sentiment that the judge expressed?
Oh, yes. It's true. And, the judge, we did from way back at the juvenile court. The juvenile court, those days, it was only one, in Accra, around the sea, opposite the court complex, there's the Ministry of Agri. Then behind it, even those places were some offices under the Ministry of Agri. So the juvenile court was there.
That's right.
So about 16, 17 years ago, yes, the court was there. So I've been in the trenches for a while, and I see, yes, with this, as the population is growing and urbanization and those things, yes, there seems to be an increase, okay, in this kind of cases. So it's good the judge is pointing out the faults we have in our institutional framework so that duty bearers will see what we can do. Give more education, ask more parents to be responsible for their children. You see, I can tell you that from my experience, 17 years working in that juvenile court. Now, when I say that court, of course, the court is changing location and the rest, but 17 years working with juveniles. Yes, very often you see parents who say, no, this my son, and often is a boy. He's too bad. I don't want to have anything to do with him. Just every sometimes they tell you the council who is providing pro bono services that no, don't do anything. I just want the government to deal with him. If he's a bad boy, I just want the government to deal with him. So I can mention, let me tell you one case. Of course, I won't mention the names of the parents because it may cause them embarrassment. But there was this case that it also had a very high profile. Oh, the boy's mom just told me, oh, lawyer, I will come and we'll go and see my son. Like we say in P. If it's today that the lady will come for us to go and see the son, then, I don't know. Yes, we're going to see her own son, biological son from her womb. And she called about 2 days before. I don't know who informed her. I didn't know she existed. When I said this, I didn't know she was in the picture. So I was there when I got this strange call. And she said, oh, she's the mom of X. So, and she hears I'm going to look for X. So she will come along. I said, okay. On the day I called the first time, she picked up. Oh, lawyer, give me 15 minutes. The second call, oh, lawyer, give me another 15 minutes. The third call, she didn't pick up. And I'm saying it's been years since then. The lady never picked up. There are lots of those cases, lots. So, growing up, this is not scientific. But, what I'm saying from experience is that, you see, when there's so much hardship in the society, and then you have a quote and unquote, a troublesome son, sometimes the society, the family just say, look, let's leave him. We are even struggling. If he chooses to be a bad boy, that's his own matter. So what I mean is that we need more education for these parents not to give up on their children. Yes, because that one is just, I've experienced it too many times. Oh, I will leave this child. I will leave this child. He's too troublesome. I don't want to have anything to do with him. Let the government take him. But we also know that keeping juveniles in custody, institutionalization is not the best. Because they are young, they should be given an opportunity to reform. That's the thing. So, yes, the judge was right. We need government to also step in to give more support, more counseling for such parents, etc.
See, and finally, before I let you go, I mean, so this is the end of the case for this 18-year-old Nicholas Kinney, is it not? This sentenced to life in prison. That's it. There's really no way for appeal or whatsoever, just for the benefit of the public education.
There is an opportunity for an appeal. Yes, we can appeal the decision. That's why earlier on I was saying that because, he says it's the ghost of the disease that would determine who is guilty. Yes, if he chooses to appeal, he has a right to appeal all the way to the Supreme Court. Yes, he has a right to appeal. Automatically, High Court, he has a right to appeal to Court of Appeal. From Court of Appeal, he has a right to go to Supreme Court.
Lawyer, I do appreciate your thought.
Exercising it is another thing.
It's another thing indeed. And we'll see how the coming days will look like. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, good.
Martin Pebo is private legal practitioner. In fact, his law firm was the legal counsel for Nicholas Kinney, the second accused, who was 18 years old at the time of the crime. He has been sentenced to life in prison for his role in the killing. The High Court earlier today found those two teenagers guilty of the gruesome murder of a 10-year-old boy in Kaswa, a case that, if you recall, gripped the nation since it occurred in 2021. The first accused, who was only 15 years old when the crime took place, will be sentenced by juvenile court since the High Court does not have jurisdiction to sentence the minors. The murder was as a result of what has been described by the court as a misguided attempt to acquire wealth through ritual means, and that is what is happening right now.
Let's bring you some more here. The National Executive Committee of the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, has directed a suspension of the ongoing strike, which has left academic activities grounded across public universities. The Galamsey-induced industrial action was part of the group's request to the government to ban all forms of illegal mining and revoke LI 2462, which allows mining in forest reserves. But after considerations, UTAG National Executive Committee is proposing an end to the strike effective Tuesday, October 29, 2024, subject to the affirmation or otherwise of members. There's more in the following report.
The tertiary student can now heave a sigh of relief following this directive after the unforeseen disruptions to their academic calendar following the strike by the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG. Students have been at the receiving end, facing sudden postponement of school reopenings. The National Union of Ghana Students' appeal yielded no positive result, with the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission asking UTAG to call off their strike. The illegal mining menace has already left devastating consequences on Ghana's environment, with experts predicting that it may take at least 3 centuries to recover lands and water bodies. Series of protests and the strike by UTAG have seen minimal actions taken by government. The National Executive Committee of UTAG has decided that members should return to the classroom. Despite this, members of UTAG are being asked to affirm the NEC directive or declare otherwise. To this end, the National Independent Elections Committee has been tasked to facilitate this process by Monday, October 28th for a final decision to be taken on this suspension directive. But for students, they remain uncertain about their future because they say that a prolonged stay at home could jeopardize their academic fortunes.
And that was the news desk report. We are joined by Professor Mahmoud Akurugu. He's the national president of UTAG. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Are you able to tell us what's informing this move, seeking affirmation or otherwise next directive to suspend the strike?
Yeah, as we read in our release, a number of things have happened, and also given the current
I'm sorry, sir, your line is not so clear. If you would kindly reposition yourself so we are able to hear you clearly.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, it's better. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm saying that as we read in our release, we thought that a number of things have happened since the declaration of strike. And although it's not at the point that we desired to be, but we thought that at this point our members should make a decision as to whether we should continue the strike or we should suspend it as indicated.
Yes, but the other part of the question is what is informing it at this time? I thought that UTAG had made a number of demands of the government. Is it that you think you've seen something, or what exactly is informing this latest decision?
Yeah, what is informing the latest decision is the development, for example, in Parliament. Parliament has adjourned indefinitely, and we know that to get the LI revoked, it has to take Parliament to do that. And we thought that at least, given that development, we cannot continue to be on strike in perpetuity. So we thought that our members would take a decision with this background.
Is that not throwing in the towel just at the slightest challenge, somebody would say? Because eco-conscious citizens, Ghana, for instance, has argued that irrespective of what's happening in Parliament, there could have been an executive instrument from the presidency to deal with this, of revoking the airline, for instance.
Yeah, we do not think that we're throwing in the towel at the slightest challenge. We have had challenges since the declaration of this strike, and we believe that our strike positively contributed to some of the things that have happened. It could have been nothing at all. We know that in the past, calls on government to act never yielded anything at all. But at least we have seen some bit of some action, which although is not as expected, but some action has taken place. And the truth is that we are fighting for the future of our children, ourselves, and the generations unborn. And we also have the responsibility of training the same future leaders who will have to man this country. And so it's a balance of probability as to whether to continue to insist that government must do exactly what we are asking for, or we balance with also the interests of our students who are eager to get back to school to learn. And so in as much as we want to, fight for the future of our existence, we want to also balance that with the exigencies of the time. And so that informed the decision of NEC to direct that members should decide whether we should suspend the strike or we should continue. In fact, this does not, as you realize, mean that UTAG has suspended the strike. The suspension will take effect if members affirmed. Otherwise, it will not hold.
But this intention alone, asking members to decide, is that not almost 50% declaration that we want to end the strike? Because you also just gave the justification for it, that you're balancing the good of serving students who are, or training students who are the future leaders of the country.
Yeah, exactly so. But again, that is what the National Executive Council thought, but our members could have different opinion altogether.
Let me ask you this. When you say that you've seen some actions, what actions have you seen from the government, aside from the AG giving indication that this LI 2462 must be revoked, and you just said Parliament has been suspended indefinitely? Don't forget that yesterday the NPP caucus asked that the Speaker recalls Parliament in time. He's got 7 days to do so. Aside from the LI that the AG talked about revoking, what else have you seen in terms of action from the government?
We know that the military was also deployed, although not at the level that we expected. The military was deployed, right?
Certainly, yes.
And as part of the process, the flag bearers are supposed to sign a pact. We have also committed ourselves to designing or to developing the framework or the pact for the flag bearers to sign, committing to continuing the fight when they come into power. And we have drafted that already, and we are going to be engaging with stakeholders to get that done. Get the various flag bearers to sign that pact, to commit that from January next year they will continue with the fight. So those are things that have happened. We did not expect that. We expected something more. Unfortunately, we have not gotten all the things that we were expected. But we don't also, as I said, want a situation where you want to fight to protect the future, and also at the same time disturbing the foundation for the future, which is training of our students to become the leaders for the future. Basically, that is about it.
We'll have to end it here. Thank you very much. Professor Mahmoud Akurgu, he's National President, University Teachers Association of Ghana.
Well, while it's so on, let's hear from Awula Sewa, who is the National Coordinator and co-founder of Eco-Conscious Citizens, one of the foremost environmental CSOs in this fight against illegal mining in this country. I will appreciate your time. Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, as always. Thank you for having me.
Well, UTAG has said notice, that they want the strike to be called off subject to the approval of their members, because according to the national president you just heard, they've seen some good gestures on the part of government, to have LI 2462 repealed, which has not been done, and then also they are balancing it with the interests of the students as well.
Well, I would just say that I'm completely astonished. LI 2462 has not even been laid before Parliament, according to the information before us. It has not even yet been laid before Parliament. And we really don't see what has changed since organized labor said that they were suspending their strike, and UTAG said they were the conscience of the people and they were going to continue. I'm struggling to see what gains have been made to necessitate the suspension of the strike. To make matters worse, we know that our esteemed reporter, Erastus Saridonko, was actually assaulted. And the perpetrators have not yet, according to my information, been brought to book. So I'm struggling to understand what has actually improved. And if we are thinking of the welfare of future leaders, what future do they have when we face an existential threat and nothing is being done about it? When I don't need to go on and on, but we know there's a rise in kidney disease, cancers, and so on and so forth. Our water is being poisoned. Water is life. So I'm struggling to understand why UTAG should think of calling off the strike. Nothing, in my opinion, has actually been achieved.
See, because I recall yesterday you were full of praise for UTAG, and then today, it certainly must come to you as a cocktail of disappointment, is it not?
Well, I am disappointed. I was also disappointed with organized labor, although I did say that we had ticketed, we had done all sorts of things, and I had to admit that their threat of a strike had brought the perverse nature of LI 2462 more to the front burner. Although I was disappointed they suspended the strike. So I thought UTAG had taken the baton and was going to continue. I'm struggling to understand why they should suspend the strike, because what has changed? In fact, things have gone from bad to worse in the sense that we were promised the LI 2462 will be revoked, irrespective of whether or not Parliament has been suspended. It has not even been laid before Parliament. And that is why 3 members of Parliament have taken a private members' bill for the same revocation of LI 2462, which means that government did not live up to what it said it would do. In addition, mining licenses are still being issued. Yes, there was a bit of a show of going to the water bodies, but the illegal miners have gone right back. So nothing has been achieved. So I'm very, very disappointed because it's giving the information that nobody wants to stand up to government. And then we're talking about the pact. What exactly is the pact saying? What specific things are we standing up to? If we can't even ensure that government does what it said it will do and we are suspending the strike, then I don't have any confidence in any pact or anything else. I just have to say that I'm disappointed, that's all.
It appears that CSOs are left in this fight alone.
Well, you see, the CSO started the fight. We were pleased that Labour had joined us because we're saying that you're fighting for the welfare of your people. What's the point of having pensions when you are dying of cancer? What's the point? So the fundamental thing for all of us to fight for is to avert the catastrophe, the existential threats we are facing as a consequence of the ongoing ecocide. So the CSOs have always been at the forefront, but we welcomed the support we got from organized labor. But if organized labor has decided, without, in our opinion, any good reason to suspend the strike, then the CSOs will have to continue being the last man standing and continue fighting for what we know is the right thing. Because much as we know that strikes have their downside, what else can we do to force governments to do the right thing? They are not doing it. They are not doing. As we have this conversation, mining licenses are being issued, our water bodies are being poisoned. Ghana water does not remove the mercury and other metals and toxins from the water. So what exactly are we saying? We know that our food chain has been compromised because our tubers and plantain have been found to contain mercury. And worse still, we now have the national security threat with armed illegal miners threatening people, beating up people. We don't want Ghana to sink to the level of Mexico or other states where the drug cartels control parts of the country. And that is what is going to happen if we don't sit up. And it seems we've thrown in the towel. So I'll say that I'm disappointed, and the CSOs will continue the struggle. And if Ghanaians themselves, the people themselves can't see what's going on, that they are being poisoned and also do what they need to do, then God help us.
Awala, God help us indeed. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Awala Sewa is the National Coordinator of Eco-Conscious Citizens and Environmental CSO.
Now, Ghana has so far confirmed 43 cholera cases with 2 deaths recorded. 12 persons are on admission and close to 200 suspected cases, all within the Adar East and Adar West districts of the Greater Accra region. Health officials say that some of the cases were transported from neighboring countries, which are equally reporting cases of cholera. The Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Franklin Adu, says the country's response to the outbreak is in threefold, with more focus on identifying cases early and tracing their contacts. He spoke exclusively to Sarah Apinkro.
For us, we are looking at mortalities. I think that since having started, I think we are watching 2 mortalities. And what we're doing is that we're trying to make sure that we identify the cases quite early, identify the contacts and follow them up. So that's what we have been doing in our circumstances. We also have case management teams or treatment centers set up. So we have over rehabilitation points or joints that have been set up in the epicenters. The idea is that those who are not vomiting, we are able to give them ORS as early as possible so that we manage the cases. And
And you had Dr. Franklin Asiedu Bekoin. He's the Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service. Let's speak to Yaw Tahin, who is the Water, Sanitation and Hygiene WASH Technical Coordinator at the World Vision Ghana. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, and good evening to your listeners.
We know that WASH has done extensive work in this area, in particular, Ada. What do you think could be the problem, aside from the lack of public toilet facilities there?
Yes, I mean, the point you made is a good one, because, you see, this is sanitation related, this is hygiene related, and that is what we have always said, that we need to have a certain arrangement which will allow households to be able to construct and use their own household toilet facilities. Because too many households in Ghana do not have toilet facilities, and that is a huge worry. You will recall that according to the Population and Housing Census 2021, only 25.3% of Ghanaian households have access to household toilets, which they can call their own. So many of them share and many of them patronize public toilets. These public toilets too do not meet the standards. Apart from that, our open defecation rate is also extremely high. To the extent that up north, for example, I mean, you have 5 northern regions having open defecation rates more than 50%. When you come to the Adan area within Greater Accra, even though Greater Accra seems to have one of the lowest in terms of open defecation rate, the Adan area seems to have one of the highest, even much higher than some of the communities up north. And so I think we need to tackle this from various angles. First of all, we need to prioritize improved sanitation, because no matter the gains we make in health, they will be eroded by the poor sanitation situation that we have. The kind of money we spend on national health insurance and health care, I mean, can drastically be reduced if we are able to improve on our sanitation situation in this country.
Do I get the understanding?
A lot of savings.
Do I get the understanding that in your works in these communities, you don't get to engage the district or the municipal assemblies, because they are supposed to be the ones championing, for instance, the construction of toilet facilities, private or public?
You are right. And interestingly, all these MMDs have beautifully written bylaws which have been gazetted, at least many of them. And yet, they don't implement them. They don't enforce them. And these bylaws indicate that you cannot build a house. You cannot stay in a house without a toilet facility. But you go to these areas, and many households don't have toilet facilities. And yet, there is nothing to compel these households to construct, or a financing arrangement which can be implemented by the MMDAs to ensure that households are able to build. This open defecation we are talking about, there is something that they have in their bylaws. And yet they know where people practice open defecation everywhere. And yet no action seems to be taken.
What is WASH doing?
These are the challenges that come to bite us.
What is WASH doing? I suppose that there should be some level of pressure from your side on the government or the local assemblies beyond telling the people to be mindful of their environment.
Yes, you see, as a country, we are also operating a certain policy, which is the open what we call CLTS, Community-Led Total Sanitation Approach, which is born out of a certain general principle that you trigger the consciousness of community members to come to an understanding that they first of all need to end open defecation. Then after ending it, they take steps to construct and use their own household toilet facilities. It is a policy that doesn't encourage subsidies. And so it is quite difficult. And many people or many organizations will want to count household toilet facilities as a contribution that they have made and are not enticed by community-led total sanitation, which is only about encouraging communities to take their own action. And that is one of the major factors that is affecting programming all across the country.
My last question to you, what do you expect the government and the overarching institution, as it were, to do to deal with this problem at this stage, beyond what the Ghana Health Service is doing in these communities?
Yes, we need to be swift because, cholera is something that can easily spread. And so we need to be swift and ensure that we, first of all, contain the situations that we have already. And then we put in place, even if there are emergency measures, to ensure that people do not continue to practice open defecation. Even if people can share household toilets. And let's also make sure that the public toilets that we have are cleaned. I mean, all these measures are in the bylaws. The assemblies must be up and doing to ensure that we are able to contain the situation.
They must be up and doing to ensure we're able to contain the situation. We want it here. Thank you very much, Yawa Tahin. He is with the Water, Sanitation and Hygiene Watch, and he's the technical coordinator there.
So live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're live on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, and also on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. The Senior Staff Association of the Volta River Authority say they are not enthused about a request from the Energy Ministry to halt the consideration of bills that would lead to the merger of the VRA, Buipa Authority, as well as the ECG and NEDCO. The recent request was made in a statement signed by the Minister of State at the Energy Ministry, Herbert Cropper, urging Parliament to halt further discussions on the bill. Excerpts of this particular statement copied to 3FM reached the ministry. Quote, respectfully requests Parliament to suspend consideration of the aforementioned bill, the energy bill, to enable us to hold further consultative engagement. Speaking to 3FM News, Regional Chair of the VRA Senior Staff Association, Hammoah Agyemang, says the union wants the bill to be totally withdrawn.
We've seen it in the social media. If you quite remember, on the 17th of October 2024, we saw a letter from the minister to the clerk of parliament instructing them to stay on the energy sector major bills. But we wrote to them, to the ministry, the minister to be precise, and copied other stakeholders, asking for a total withdrawal from Parliament. We've not heard from him. He has not written back to us. We've only seen it in the media, and so we are waiting to hear from him officially, and then we proceed from there. For now, I think even though it is not entirely meeting our needs, because we were asking for a total withdrawal and he's calling for a suspension. I think he's meeting us halfway. We are not so enthused, but I think it's part of the process. And so we'll wait to hear from him. Then we will engage with our management. Then from there, we decide on the next step to take. Yes, we are looking at withdrawing the bill because we think that the issues raised in the bill does not solve the issues in the energy sector, and that if they engage experts from our side together with the ministry and stakeholders, we can together, and our management, we can together fashion out something that will be more profound to the country than what we have now. And so we are calling for an engagement, and we know that and hoping that it will be as quick as possible for us to move on from there.
Now that's Hammoah Agyemang. He is the regional chair of the VRA Senior Staff Association there. Let's stay a bit further on this matter, because this is one that, in fact, the major players within the energy space have been looking at quite closely. Hammoah Agyemang, the executive director of the Institute for Energy Security, is joining us on the telephone right now. Nana, appreciate you. Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, and good evening to your listeners, Alfred.
For the VRA senior staff, this letter by the sector minister, in fact, the Minister of State at the Energy Ministry, to Parliament to halt further discussion on the bill is not enough assurance that something would eventually not be done about it. For you, would you support that call that it should be totally withdrawn, that these institutions must operate separately?
Alfred, if you could recollect, 3 weeks ago or a month ago, IES put out a statement and it states clearly that the timing of the proposed merger is totally out of order. It's the wrong time because today VRA is just floating on the basis of the thermal asset it controls. The hydro asset is directed to the VACO and the ECG, and they are unable to pay them. And so it's a thermal asset that they control, and they export the power to our neighbors. They also give some to the miners, as well as the commercial enclave in Tema. That's what's keeping them afloat, the revenue from those sales. And so if you want to hive off the thermal assets and merge them with we, you are rather exposing them more, and that could impact on power generation and power supply reliability. So what we said that go back and fix the inefficiency in the ECG, make sure the cash waterfall mechanism is working. All the utilities, including the VRA, we and the others, are having an equitable and fair, take from the cash waterfall mechanism. If you don't do that and you sought to hive off the thermal assets and merge the two companies, you are rather putting them in danger and putting the power supply of Ghana in danger. So the timing is wrong. This is what we stated last time. Probably for the VRA staff, and we are forced to admit that government cannot address the issue of the VRA, of the ECG, in 1 month or 1 year. It could be more than 2 years because the kind of hole that the ECG has plunged the entire sector into, it won't take just a year or two to fix it. And so for that matter, they are thinking that a suspension of the bill is not enough. Take it off the table. Let's go and address other key issues. And that's what probably they are calling for. And so the timing is wrong. And you can't blame them if they are saying that take it entirely off the table, because it cannot be fixed in 1 day.
And there seems to be some lack of trust element in there, is it not? Because if the minister says Parliament halt any discussion on this matter, that could have been enough assurance, at least a signal to them. But from what they're saying, to the extent that they have followed the sequence of events right to this moment, they cannot trust even this letter, that beyond this letter, this matter would not be resumed again.
Yeah, the question of trust becomes key, even at the engagement or the consultative table. We are having the same problem. Alfred, you will recollect that it was 5 bills. 5 bills were presented to Parliament for consideration. If you take 4 bills out, pull them off the table from Parliament, and indicate that you are going to do broader consultation and engagement, then it means that you didn't do your risk assessment well. You failed to cross the T's and dot the I's before you push this major bill. And so it's compelling some of us to say that, look, what is the nuclear bill doing on the decks? Pull that also away. Take it off from Parliament. Go and consult, with the broader energy players and bring it back probably one day. And so the question of trust becomes key. For the nuclear bill, we believe that security and safety concerns are very key. If you want to build a nuclear power and have a nuclear power authority, then of course, a very good engagement with experts and industry players is key to guarantee the safety and the security of the assets that will be built out of this nuclear power bill. And so we are calling for a withdrawal of the nuclear bill as well. The withdrawal or the suspension of the 4 bills is not enough. Take away the nuclear bill from Parliament as well for broader consultation.
Nana, appreciate you as always. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Alfred.
Nana Moisi, the 7th Executive Director of the Institute for Energy Security, joining us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Still with us, we're back with the business news. Juliana Menua-Afol is standing by with the latest. Stay with us.
The most comprehensive election coverage.
Top-notch presenters and well-versed analysts.
Dedicated reporters and correspondents in every nook and cranny across the country.
All the action, every incident reported.
All the big stories covered.
All facts cross-checked. Every figure verified.
Every vote monitored and accounted for.
The numbers tallied, analyzed, and interpreted.
We have invested time and energy in order to bring you a comprehensive elections coverage.
The whole world will be watching us on TV, online, and radio.
Election Command Center. Facts, analysis, results.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition with me, Menu Afol. Coming up tonight, finance expert Joe Jackson backs claims by Imani Africa and Oxfam Ghana that Finance Ministry is most fiscally reckless public institution. We'll tell you why. This and many more stories are lined up for you. Please stay. On our straight to the details, Chief Executive Officer of Dalex Finance, Joe Jackson, has backed claims that Ministry of Finance's reckless behavior has indeed contributed significantly to Ghana's current economic crisis. This comes on the back of Imani Africa and Oxfam Ghana's assessment that the ministry was deemed the most fiscally reckless institution from 2021 to 2023, with a staggering 90% of financial infractions tracked back to them.
However you dice it, we have to accept that it's a fair assessment. And the reason why I say it's a fair assessment is looking at the fruits of the mismanagement. Look at the Ministry of Finance, which is deemed most reckless. Is the current economic crisis not due to their behavior? They were the final nail in the coffin of what had gone off for a number of years. So why would we challenge it? Why would we say it is not right? Look at inflation. Look at inflation driven by food prices. So that in the month of September, when we're supposed to be reaping the harvest, when we're supposed to be enjoying some of the lowest inflation rates in a season, prices are still rising. Is it surprising that the second most reckless is the Ministry of Agric? Listen, and we could go on. Communications and digitalization, roads and highways and health as the top 5. But you have to agree that there is definitely something to say about the fact that these institutions have been reckless with our funds, have not cut our coat according to our size.
That was Joe Jackson, finance expert and chief executive officer of Dalex Finance, who backed claims by Imani Africa and Oxfam Ghana that Finance Ministry is the most fiscally reckless public institution. Now, Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam has announced that the successful implementation of the domestic debt exchange program has saved the country a staggering $12 billion. Speaking during the 2024 IMF World Bank annual meetings, Dr. Amin Adam highlighted that the DDEP, alongside other debt restructuring efforts, has played a crucial role in reducing Ghana's debt burden. He revealed that while the program has been monumental success, the government is now focusing on restructuring $2.7 billion with commercial creditors.
We started with our domestic debt restructuring, and the sacrifices of our people ensured that we concluded that restructuring with about 95% or more participation. So it was greatly a success. We followed that with the restructuring of our bilateral debt with our bilateral creditors. That was also very successful in a negotiation between us and the Official Creditor Committee for Ghana. And this led to significant savings, debt service relief of about $2.8 billion. And then following this is our restructuring of the Eurobonds. The Eurobonds, about $13 billion. That was concluded in the first week of this month. Another great success because we saw over 98% participation in the debt exchange. The benefits we have derived from this so far includes an outright debt cancellation of about $5 billion and another debt service relief of about $4.3 billion. And so between the bilateral creditors and the Eurobonds, you are talking about savings of about $12 billion. So we think this is a very great success.
That was Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam at the 2024 IMF World Bank annual meetings. Away from that, the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, has reaffirmed its stance on the appraisal of Springfield's Afina oil discovery, insisting that its concerns are rooted in public interest and data inconsistencies. ACEP clarified that its critique of the ongoing appraisal program is intended to promote transparency in Ghana's oil and gas sector, not to discredit Springfield. My colleague Bismarck Ausa has the details in the following report.
The Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, has reiterated its position on the appraisal program for Springfield's Afina oil discovery following a rebuttal from the company. ACEP had earlier raised concerns over inconsistencies in the data submitted by Springfield to the Petroleum Commission, warning that this could have significant implications for the unitization process with ENI's Sankofa field. Springfield's CEO, Kevin Autry, dismissed these claims, stating that the company has not yet completed its appraisal program and no final report contradicting earlier data has been issued. However, ACEP clarified that its position was based on a review of the appraisal program submitted to the Petroleum Commission, which raised concerns about transparency and accuracy in the handling of the Afina discovery. According to ACEP, the critique was not aimed at discrediting Springfield, but to defend the public interest by ensuring that the government's decisions are based on reliable data. The think tank called for greater transparency in the management of Ghana's oil resources, stressing that any oversight in the appraisal process could have long-term consequences for the sector.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report on Africa Center for Energy Policy reaffirming its stance on the appraisal of Springfield's Afina oil discovery, insisting that its concerns are rooted in public interests and data inconsistency. So that brings us to the end of the business segment on Hot Edition. My name is Menu Afo. For more stories, kindly visit our website. It's www.3news.com. Stay tuned. Sports News is up next.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment here on Hot Edition on CFM 92.7. My name is Oreku Ampofo, and we'll just be bringing you the latest story starting in from the CAF Awards. With the nominations have been officially announced by the Confederations of African Football, and Ghanaian duo John Entry and Abdulaziz Issa have both been nominated for the CAF Interclub Player of the Year. Entry and Issa were key members of the Dreams FC team that made it to the semi-finals of the CAF Confederation Cup last season. Issa's impressive performance also saw him be nominated for the CAF Young Player of the Year, as Dreams FC were also nominated for Club of the Year for their incredible debut run in Africa last season. Ghana's Kwesi Appiah has also been nominated for Coach of the Year, and he is currently leading the Sudanese team, and their impressive record as they've only lost one competitive game in 2024 under Appiah. But we decided to throw the focus on Issa, who continues to write a remarkable story in his career, with the attacking midfielder currently settling at his new club, that's the Academy of FC Barcelona, after leaving Dreams FC at the end of the season.
Abdul Aziz Issa's latest nominations for the CAF Interclub and CAF Young Player of the Year at the upcoming CAF Awards highlights a significant growth in the career of a young player who about a year ago was making the case for first-team football in the Ghana Premier League. In September 2023, the 18-year-old made his league debut for Dreams FC and never looked back, going on to score in the MTN FA Cup final against King Faisal. He took home the Man of the Match award in the process. The midfielder with a skinny frame showed immense technical ability against opponents and had a penchant for the spectacular. He scored 4 of those in the CAF Confederation Cup last season to take home the Golden Boot, as Dreams FC made history by becoming the third Ghanaian team in 24 years to reach the semis. Adding to his remarkable achievement was a gold medal in the 2023 African Games after the Black Satellites defeated Uganda in the final at the Accra Sports Stadium. He now plies his trade for Barcelona B, where he joined on loan from Dreams FC in September this year. His name has been mentioned alongside Africa's brightest talents like Senegal's Lamine Camara. In a year when very little has gone right for Ghana football, Issa's remarkable rise and now nomination in 2 CAF categories provides a ray of hope.
Well, so that was more of the spotlight on Abdulaziz Issa, who's been nominated for 2 categories in the CAF Awards, one for Interclub Player of the Year and then the other for Young Player of the Year. Just a reminder that the 2024 CAF Awards will be hosted in the city of Marrakesh, Morocco on December 16. To some other stories, where Ghana defender Alfred Ocansey has disclosed his relationship with Real Madrid star Kylian Mbappe on the field anytime the pair play against each other. Saidu revealed that there's a fierce rivalry between the two of them, especially when Kylian Mbappe was in Ligue 1.
Who would you say has been the toughest attacker that you faced in Ligue 1? It could be more than one name. Someone who has really given you a tough time, one that you remember.
Mbappe. Yes.
Which particular game was it?
Bro, his speed. First match, we lost 6-1 our first time playing PSG. And he was very good, and we won to in their home, but he made me run a lot because of his pace, you know. Anytime he just get the ball, he just push, you know. I was just struggling at his back, you know. Yeah, I think Mbappe gave me a lot of tough times, and anytime I play with him, we fight, we just insult each other because tough time, you know, and sometimes it come to tease you, you know, it makes you get mad, and I think Dembele too.
Oh, you spoke of you and Mbappe kind of teasing each other on the pitch. Is that what led to your little chant? Because there was this TikTok video that went viral about you saying that I think Clement can also.
Yeah. Because
what was the background?
because before the match, when we started the match, it was like Clement, we are, you know, and he was like, oh, he'll kill us. He wanted to just provoke me so that I will be out of the game so that he can do what he wants. So he was just talking and I was like, you know, okay. So when we won, and I did that video to let you know that we are also good. Yeah.
Il n'y a pas tous les autres équipes qui font le boulot. Hein. Clairement aussi, on est capable de faire le boulot. C'est journaux boulot, ça. C'est journaux boulot. Les Kiki. C'est journaux boulot, ça. On est venu pour le boulot. Ciao.
So that was Ali Dusaidi there speaking about his relationship with Mbappe. The French that he had at the end there had to do with Kylian Mbappe. He says that Clermont can also put in the work and they deserve to be recognized. That's basically the message that he's putting out. But you can get more of these stories on our social media handles. Follow the coverage of the Conference League and Europa League matches. Chelsea currently beating Panathinaikos by 4-0. You can get more of that on our social media handles at 3 Sports GH. My name is Ore Kwampofo, and that's how we wrap up the sports here on Hot Edition on TFM.
Thank you very much, Ore Kwampofo, for bringing us the latest in sports. We're still here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Welcome to Campaign Trail. And on Campaign Trail tonight, we start from the United States of America, and it's less than 2 weeks to the elections in the U.S. And already early voting is happening in some determinant states, including Michigan and Pennsylvania. The elections are on November 5. Della Michelle is a freelance journalist. She joins us live now from the U.S. Della, if you can hear us, I know a lot is happening in the U.S. now, even in your own state. What can you tell us? So here on Campaign Trail, I was telling you about the elections in U.S. Expected to happen on November 5. And already, like I said, early voting is happening in some determinant states, including Michigan and Pennsylvania. Freelance journalist Della Michelle is in the U.S. for us. She joins us live from there. Della, hopefully you can hear us this time around. I know a lot is happening in there where you are, even in your own state. Really tell us more. Okay, we're having a challenge with the line to Della, but we'll try and reconnect to her so we're able to bring you a conversation of what's happening. We know that in Michigan and Pennsylvania, almost 1 million people have cast their ballots, and there's still some more happening. We'll bring you all the updates from there, but let's come back to Ghana because flag bearer of the NPP, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, says by midnight of 7th December, he will be declared the winner of the elections. He expressed this when he addressed the Youth Connect program at Angola as part of the 12th vote region. Listen.
I have been touring over 200 constituencies in Ghana, and I can tell you from what I've seen today, I know we are winning this election. We are winning this election. Midnight of the 7th of December that MPP has won this election. It is going to be clear. You can see that the NDC know they are losing this election. They know because We have 6 weeks to the election, isn't it? 6 weeks. But today, after being a minority for 8 years, they want to be a majority for 6 weeks.
And that was flag bearer of the governing New Patriotic Party, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Will be going to the U.S. shortly, but let's bring you that information from the camp of the opposition NDC. And Ghana needs a true leader who will, with all sincerity, protect the public purse and not steal it. The words of John Mahama as he urges Ghanaians to rise up and join him reset the country that, in his words, has become a mockery of others in the sub-region over bad economic management. John Mahama made this call in the coastal belt of the Greater Accra region, where he campaigned in the past week.
And so I serve warning to my appointees that if you come into office and you do the same things that MPP has done, if the anti-corruption institutions are dealing with you, that will be your matter. I'll have nothing to do with it. They need a government that will really protect the purse, not a government that will promise to protect the purse and steal the purse. Now the purse is not even there. The foreign currency, and I was watching that video again, and anytime I watch it, I'm intrigued. And what he said was very true. He said, if in doubt, watch the exchange rate. If in doubt, watch the exchange rate. And I can do all the propaganda with the economy you like. But if the fundamentals are weak, what will happen? The exchange rate will expose you. At that time he was talking, the exchange rate was below 4, it was 3 point something. So today, at 17 cedis to $1. If in doubt, watch the exchange rate. And now the professor of economics can no longer give lectures on economics. He doesn't comment on economics anymore. And that was the principal reason for which he was brought into government, Akufo-Addo told us. And so the time has come.
You had the flag bearer of the opposition NDC, John Mahama. Let's try one more time and see whether we can connect to Della Michelle in US, who is bringing us update with less than 2 weeks to that country's major election. And Della, can you hear us?
I can hear you, Beatrice. Can you hear me now?
Excellent. Yes, thank you. So I was saying earlier that indeed a lot is happening already. We know that almost 1 million, perhaps now it's even more than 1 million people have cast their ballot in Michigan, Pennsylvania. We also do know that a lot is happening in your own state. Just tell us really, beyond what I've just said, all that is happening across the states.
So I would say that here in Maryland, we had the opportunity to begin our early voting today. It started about 7 in the morning. It's going to go all the way to 8 p.m. Now, what people need to know is that Maryland has a number of counties. So there are 5 counties that are actually having either 1 voting center or 2 voting centers, and all that has been made. For the mail-in ballots that is supposed to come in, they're looking at October 29th for them to receive that. As we move away from Maryland, New York is going to start theirs over the weekend. They're expecting to also start their in-person, early voting in person. Is going to go all the way to other parts of the state, finally, until we get to November 5, where the grand election that we've all been talking about is going to happen. But you mentioned Michigan, which is really true. And later today, we'll be seeing the vice president, that is Senator J.D. Vance, in Michigan today in a town hall meeting. This is something that has been very peculiar to the running up to the 2024 elections here in the U.S. Yesterday was that of Kamala Harris, and today we're going to see that of J.D. Vance already. We saw that of Trump, and they are taking some of these key areas. I come to Michigan because it's one of the areas you mentioned, and we know that they are very, very important in this state because they are part of the 7 swing states that are really, pushing. Everybody's really pushing to get their votes there. I would say that, just to break down, Michigan has 15 electoral colleges. And these are the ones that they're expecting, at least either the Trump administration or the Harris administration is expecting to win their votes, because they really matter in these things. These are swing areas. Of course, during the 2020 elections, Biden was able to turn it around and make it more a blue state, but there are conversations that some of these blue states are gradually becoming red states. But Beatrice, the truth is that this election is actually pretty close. So the statistics that we are just receiving today, Kamala is leading in certain places by just 2 points, or 2 votes, if I should say. In other states, she's leading by a vote. And for many Democrats who are like, listen, we need to move away from the comeback of Donald Trump and to usher in a Harris administration, they are hoping that she's going to win this election by a landslide, because again, there's so many things that are at stake, many issues that are being discussed here when it comes to immigration, when it comes to abortion rights, even when it comes to price gouging and also crime rates in the USA. So these are very topical issues. At this point, everybody is out there trying to vote. The undecided are also, imagine that many of these many of these presidential candidates are not overlooking, because the undecided actually have a huge number here in the US and they're trying to get them onto their side. One of the places that I'd want to mention, Beatrice, is that in Pennsylvania, for instance, I spoke to a member of the Harris campaign team, and he made me aware that in Pennsylvania, the groundworks looks solid, and they are hoping to cover enough groundworks there. Pennsylvania, for instance, has 19 electoral votes. That is what they are looking at getting. They say so far, so good. When you look at places like Arizona has 11 electoral votes. Georgia has 16. Wisconsin has 10. North Carolina has 16 as well. Nevada has 6, and Michigan has 15. So these are the states that people will be looking at, especially as November 5 draws close. But mind you, in the U.S., they need to get 270 electoral votes. As it stands right now, Kamala Harris has 226. So it looks like she's leading in that way, but they want to really confirm that she'll be able to get the 270 that they need. And then in January, they're really going to see who is going to be elected and sworn in as the U.S. president.
Well, comprehensive there. Thank you very much, Dela Michelle. We'll have to end it here. And of course, we'll come back to you for more updates, because we do know that a lot is happening there. Let's come back to Ghana and still stay with your position, NDC, and to the Upper West region, specifically One West constituency. It's 44 days to the biggest general election in Ghana as well, with a focus on the National Democratic Congress, because it's taking its campaign a notch higher with some novelty. The party has launched a vote testing campaign among market women as it focuses on reducing number of spoiled ballots in the upcoming elections. And that was identified as major setback for the NDC in the constituency in the previous election. And Peter Lanchini Tobu is the Member of Parliament for Wa West constituency. He's been speaking. Take a listen to what he said.
Today, I will continue to do in all the markets is to reduce the number of rejected ballots in the 2024 elections. We don't want many people to swear their ballots, because your vote must count. Your vote must bring John Mahama in power. Your vote must bring Nigeria again to continue in power. NDC, as we speak, we have 136 MPs, and the MPP, they have 135. So we are the new majority. So you see, one MP more make that majority. Today, one MP more is making the NDC majority. One MP is a very important thing in policy. One MP is a very important person in democracy. And I want to encourage you, see the people of Wa West, when they are voting for Peter Lanchini Tobu, make sure they are voting with your heart. Make sure they are voting with your mind. Make sure they are voting with your soul. Because we want to count 85% of the vote in Wa West for the National Democratic Congress.
And you heard that the Member of Parliament for the Wa West constituency, he's an NDC Member of Parliament, Peter Lanchini Tobu. We do have our correspondent Ibrahim Wangara on the line with us. Wangara, one of the reasons we're learning the NDC has taken this campaign to this constituency is because it suffered in the previous election with spoiled ballots. Nonetheless, it was able to get the constituency for its parliamentary candidates. So I want to believe that it's perhaps for the presidential. Are you able to tell us more beyond this?
Yeah, Beatrice, I barely can hear you, but what this whole vote education is about in the Wa West constituency is that according to the NDC in the Wa West constituency, last 2020 elections, the constituency recorded 1,328 spoiled ballots. Out of voter population, according to the 2020 voter register, 49,000 857. So out of which, according to the NDC's own research, it has revealed to them that out of every 10 votes, 7 of the votes goes to NDC, whilst the remaining 3 is shared among the other political parties. And in every 7 votes, 1 vote is always considered to be a spoiled one. So the remaining 6 valid votes for the NDC in each of the 10 votes, 7 votes that they normally get within the West constituency. So it's against this backdrop that the party realized it is high time they took it upon themselves to give that kind of education to the electorate in order to ensure that coming December general election, the area will reduce, if not entirely do away with spoil by law, but will reduce the high numbers they keep recording, which according to the party goes a long way to affect their fortunes within their constituency. So that is the rationale behind this voter education that the NDC in West constituency has taken to their market. So they are ensuring that every market day, every community within the constituency, they will be visiting them one at a time to give this kind of sensitization until the December 7th general election. But NDC in the constituency appears to be gaining ground, and it is not surprising that some of the constituents are giving the chances. According to them, the chances of the NDC are very high within the area, and for that matter, they will do everything possible to ensure they win majority of the seats, and then they also retain Lanchene Chubu as the member of parliament. So we can take a listen to some of their constituents, what they have been telling us during the engagement with them.
And looking at the 2024 elections, we do not have any other fears apart from the increasing numbers of spoiled ballots. And looking at our target for this year, we are targeting the total number of votes close to 40,000 plus. Last election we had 27,000, and if we think that looking at the increasing numbers, our only worry is just to fight the increasing numbers of spoiled ballots.
And you heard that some constituents of the Wild West constituency earlier. You heard our correspondent in the region, Ibrahim Wangara, giving us updates on a campaign strategy of the opposition NDC in that part of the country. On Hot Edition on Shri FM 92.7.